A straight to the point question to begin: is are men the problem of the world?
No. Was that your takeaway from the film?
No, but there's a metaphor.
Yeah, well, I think it's, I mean, the film is the story of an individual and an individual's response to trauma, and it's obviously trauma in a relationship, and that relationship happens to be a man and a woman relationship. But I think it can resonate just as strongly with no matter one's gender, in terms of the experiences one's had in one's life. It's open-ended enough, oblique enough, and rich enough that I don't think it's making a point, like in terms of a finality of a point. I think it's representing various experiences, various sort of societal influences, but eventually it's up to an audience member to decide what sort of side of the fence or how it resonates with them, rather than what they think Alex's point is.
Actually, it's like a mirror when you see what you want to see. What did you see, Jessie, in this movie that interested you to play in?
Oh God, I saw lots. Like, immediately I just felt like kind of provoked, and I guess it made me want to understand or see, like, where is the kind of source of the wound between us as men and women and within ourselves that sometimes has harmful effects on each other and on ourselves, and in ways, what are the things that are holding us back from that? But Alex has presented so many rich possibilities for each corner to be complex and provocative and, not finite, that you never felt like you were kind of clocking in or that you could kind of put something on top of it. You always kind of had to come into it in an unknowable space, because every turn was going to kind of challenge you with something else.
You're very alone in this movie because there's four actually. Both of you, the house and the woods. How was it to shoot with such a restrained area?
Yeah, I mean, it was also at sort of the back end of the second lockdown in the UK as well. So we were staying at a hotel where there were no other guests, and maybe just one person working. And that was, the hotel also looked a bit like the house that we were filming in during the day. So it was quite an intense experience, but obviously reading the script, you knew that one's enjoyment or one's experience of the whole filmmaking process was going to come down to how well you got on with Jessie, or how well I got on with Jessie and how well I got on with Alex. And we were lucky enough to have 2 weeks before filming started, which we were able to chat and rehearse and
get out of it if we didn't like
and
each
muck
other.
about, and I look for an exit. So by the time we actually got to start filming, we already had quite a sort of robust working relationship between the three of us, and were aware that Alex was very, very keen for us to bring as much as we wanted to the table, and that he, very happily cherry pick and shape, but that his process was extraordinarily collaborative.
We had a great time, yeah. We laughed a lot, even though it was a horror. I mean, there was a really good vibe on set.
Yeah.
And Alex's whole crew, there are people that have been with him from day one, and he's got such a kind of, he loves them, and he would say he has nothing to do with this film, that actually Rob Hardy's cinematographer and Misha's production designer and us or whatever offer, they're as much part of the tapestry of the film as he is, which is a lie. But he also brings that spirit to the workplace, so it was great. We had a great time.
It's difficult to take yourself too seriously when you have a third foot hanging off your leg and a severed hand sort of flopping around and the face of a tree sprite, and you're lowing like a cow giving birth to yourself. At a certain point, you can't take yourself too seriously.
I wonder what genre movies, horror movies, can explain or show about our society that other kind of movies cannot show.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of not steeped in the horror genre as such. It's not something I necessarily seek out, but I know Alex likes working in genre no matter what it is, because it offers him something to kick against. And a bit like jazz musicians, you know the rules so that you can break them. And what's interesting about the film is where it upends those tropes that we expect, particularly, say, with the character of Harper, what we expect of a woman in a horror film, and actually what Jessie through Harper imbues and how she responds. So whilst it's also, I feel like, whilst I might not well know the horror genre, I sort of have a sense of what it is, and I think the film has that sort of a sense of horror, and wants to investigate what that sense within us is.
One last question for you, Jessie. What was that appealing in that character? Was it the grieving part? Because that's what moved me a lot in this movie.
I think that was definitely the catalyst for the whole film. Really, is like, how do you deal with grief and the residue that grief leaves you, and I guess the ways we try to deflect it, the ways we try to escape it, but ultimately you have to kind of face the music at some point and come to terms with the most painful wounds within ourselves and let go.
Just quick answers. What scares you the most, both of you, in life?
Death. Just death. Death of my loved ones.
So it was cathartic to do this movie.
Sort of.
Q&As.
Thank you.
One word answers.